Remember the movie Ghost?
Yes.
Yeah, with Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, this couple was wild, crazy in love. The man was a banker who was murdered by a co-worker in a shady business deal. The woman was an artist who made pottery. There was a scene in this movie where they were shaping clay together. If you saw the movie, it was in a moment of intense tenderness in the scene. I learned that pottery is made from clay harvested in a variety of places. It can come in different colors and different textures depending on how much sand or stone is added to the clay. All good pottery should be able to be tied in a knot in order to make it into a pot. So you get this piece of clay, and if you can tie it in a knot, then it should make a good pot. I just wanted y'all to know that. The basic shape to start with is usually a pinch pot. Kids make those in grade school. And if the potter does not like the shape, it is squished down, and the potter starts over. This can be done again and again and again. But when the pottery dries for several weeks, and then it's fired or baked, and it's hard, it cannot be changed. I thought about this in the creation story. Somehow, a lump of clay was made into a living, breathing human being. I wonder how many times the prototype was squished and started over. I wonder if this is the image Jeremiah brings to his people that he is condemning for not listening to their Creator, the holy, blessed, living God. The God Jeremiah's people were supposed to worship instead of the clay gods made by human hands. I wonder about God and creation and Jeremiah. Now, the Babylonian exile is part of the story, and this was about 600 years before the Common Era, and Jeremiah was preaching just before that devastating experience. Jeremiah tried to warn the people. Jeremiah loved the God above all gods and wanted the people to know that they were living lives that would bring imminent loss. It seems as if God needed to reform the people and make them into something new, into a people who might listen and turn from the distractions of the day. It's as if God needed the people to lose everything in order to gain wisdom and love one another without rank or prestige. The wealthiest people were taken away in this captivity to Babylon when Jerusalem was overcome, and they were forced to work as slaves. The poorest people were left with the destroyed city and land, and they had to eke out a living as best as they could. What holds us captive? What are we slaves to? I depend on the internet access, my cell phone. I depend on a tiny savings account for extra things. I know my bills will be paid each month, and I don't have to live hand to mouth. We can all get caught up in worshiping things and money and stuff instead of God. We can also be grateful for these gifts and share them abundantly. Now, Jesus, like Jeremiah, warns us not to think too highly of ourselves. We're born, we live, we breathe, and we die. It's that hyphen between the birth date and the death date that gives us total freedom to love abundantly, to give recklessly, to honor and uphold others. Jesus is preaching on his way to Jerusalem, and when he gets to Jerusalem this time, what happens? Crucifixion. He knows his time is short. He wants people to know of the liabilities of following his way of life. The author of this gospel sees the people in the later part of the first century as families are being torn apart by these teachings of Jesus. Chances are pretty good that these are not verbatim discussions, but a way of writing about this Jewish man who was born, died by crucifixion, and actually walked and talked after death. The disciples had seen Jesus raise other people from the dead, but when it happened to Jesus, a whole new story opened up. A story of people crushed by idol worship, crushed by slavery, crushed by having many gods to choose from, now have one God to follow. I can identify with this a bit. In our culture, there are deep separations by race, class, church, migration, hatred, politics, gun ownership, and gun control. We have to find a Jesus that we're comfortable to follow. Do we follow the Jesus who is the white Rambo type Jesus, or the one who is poor and brown and on a cross? Do we follow the one who hates those whom I hate, or the one who loves regardless? Do I think Jesus loved those who were wrong, even those who refused to love their neighbors as themselves? I think the author of this gospel wanted the Jewish people and us to know that following Jesus is hard. There is a cost to following Jesus. It means if we are serious, we pray for how we spend our money. We pray for how we spend our time and our talent. We pray for how to live in love with those who are very hard to love, those we fear, those who refuse to play nice. Do we think that we can be squished back into a lump of clay and start over? Maybe that's what we need. I wonder why this is so hard. Isn't love supposed to be rosy and nice? Isn't love wine and roses? Isn't love tenderness and joyful and open? Yes. And many crimes are committed in the name of love. Crimes of passion, crimes of ignorance, crimes of ownership and greed and anger. I love this, so I have to get rid of that. Or I love these people so much, I have to get those people out of here. Or I love my wealth so much, I won't share a penny. I think about Scrooge. Or guns are more important to me than the lives of children and people that I don't know and I don't care about. The list could go on and on. Jesus and Jeremiah remind us over and over that God is God. There is a powerful God who depends on love, pure, simple, strong. The cost of following Jesus, God with skin on, is to live in this state of love where nothing can separate us from God. We may be squished by society. We may be run down with that to-do list. We may be broken with disease. But we are all clay, malleable, changeable, beloved. Like the movie Ghost, God is the potter, we are the clay. It's a dizzying experience of joy, intimacy, and real love. Amen.